Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. This is the Community Advisory Board meeting. This is a mic.
Part of what we want to do is arrive at a consensus agreement of what exactly this radio station needs to be and how we need to organize ourselves in order to be able to fulfill that mission. The mission doesn't change. In October, I plan to contract with the California Center for Rural Policy to conduct a broad-scale public input phase. I want CCRP to do that because, first of all, that's their area of expertise. But I want to make sure that we get really objective input from the public, from the broad public. And with all of that input then, in November, it will come back to staff and the President's Cabinet to finalize. It all becomes a recommendation to the President in December. She will take that recommendation under advisement. She will consult with whomever she wishes to consult with, and then adopt the mission and purpose for KHSU. I hope to have all that done by the end of the fall semester, so by December. And that then will form the basis so that early next year we can start with a strategic plan and then develop concrete, tactical, year-to-year plans and goals and objectives. That is incorrect. Humboldt State University provides approximately 45% of the support for the station.
That does not sound like a majority.
It's the largest single share. So, to be clear, the station is owned by the university. That means fundamentally the station is state property. That's just the reality. And there are some things that flow from that. One of them is we need to be responsible for the use of state property. That's part of the reason Warren is talking to you about the volunteer forms. It's integral to managing volunteer use of state property. So that's one of the things we have to work on. But make no mistake about it, Humboldt State University is the largest single shareholder, if you will. 45% of the support comes from the university. That is not to diminish any of the other sectors. They're very, very important. But the university is doing its share. I think one of the reasons this feels so abrupt is that, frankly, the university, as the owner of the station, had been kind of absentee for a long, long time. And it feels like the university is intruding. And it's really just that the university has become more aware of the public radio service that it provides. So if I may, my observations about KHSU's operations and its staff are neither new nor shallow. Ed Supkis reported to me, so I had 5 years of observation, close observation, before hiring Peter. So I apologize for that. There's been reference to a secret agenda. I'm here to tell you if there's a secret agenda, I am not aware of it. One of the reasons that I wanted to work through the President's Cabinet first was to test that. If the President's Cabinet has decided that there is no future for KHSU, there's no point in doing this. That's not the case. We want to have this public radio service. We want to improve it. That is not to say that there is anything in particular wrong with it now, but I don't think that anybody is perfect. And so it's really an attempt to take this treasure that we have, improve it, grow it. Part of what makes this so fascinating is we're trying to create a true hybrid. And I don't know how else to do it, but to start with the vision and purposes. The station depends on its volunteers. I have the greatest respect for the volunteers. Secondly, there has been talk, and I've heard it again now, that the FCC violations are trivial and minor. They're not. They were FCC violations that, had we been caught, would have resulted in fines.
Actually, didn't they call in to report those?
Just a minute, I'll get to that.
Didn't they actually report them? Because that's what they have to do.
I'm going to explain that in a minute.
Didn't you
So
tell
they were
us that?
violations that, had we been caught, would have resulted in fines. Those fines would have been levied against the trustees of California State University. On my advice, Peter called the FCC and self-reported the violations.
And you told us that they kind of laughed at him.
Here's what that resulted in. That resulted in the FCC recording the violations but not fining us. So I think that was a good thing.
It is really scary what Danielle was saying, and I don't know your name in the purple, but she spoke eloquently. What is this hidden agenda? Is there a hidden agenda? Is the boom going to be dropped? Is it going to be too late? Are we all being hoodwinked by you?
Okay. And if I can respond.
Yeah.
The allegations of intimidation and abuse and hostile workplace really came to my attention in May. Following the termination of Katie Whiteside, I consulted with our HR office and I offered to meet one-on-one with each of the KHSU staff members. I have met with most of them. I think there are 2 who have not taken me up on that. I promised them in those one-on-one discussions that I would keep everything that was said confidential, and I'm not about to break that promise. And I wanted to know from them, what is the work environment? And I had several questions that I asked each of them. I'm not about to break the confidence. I will not get into specifics of who I talked to. But I will give you my overall assessment. My overall assessment is the staff is deeply divided. There are some staff members who want Peter Fretwell fired immediately and are pretty clear that they won't rest until that happens. There is another contingent of staff members who are quite upset with that first group, but for whatever reason they don't feel that they can speak up about it. And the largest group of staff members are somewhere in the middle. They really would just like to go to work and wish that all this turmoil would go away. In each case, when people had specific allegations, I encouraged them to take it to the HR office. There is a process, and it escalates. The place to go if you feel that you are being intimidated, if you feel that you are being bullied, the place to go is the Human Resources office. Very sensitive to the situation with the staff. I would also say, I agree, it's a caustic work environment. And my observation is that didn't start with Peter Fretwell. There has been stress and tension among that staff for quite a long while. It may have gotten worse.
You are contributing.
My intention was that the CAB would spend the month of August figuring out what sort of input they wanted to gather so that we could proceed, and that includes looking at the timeline, I would like to have this piece of work done by the end of the fall semester, because I think these things can drag on far too long. So it's an aggressive timeline, I understand that, but I think that's how we go about this.
Can you make a commitment to maintaining the same percentage of locally based programming and to imported programming? I think if you made a commitment to that, I know I would sleep better. And that would, you know what I'm saying, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that reasonable for you to make that kind of a observation, that you realize that the number of hours that are allocated now to locally based programming would be not diminished, and within an hour or two maybe, and outside programming that percentage would stay about the same? How do you feel about that, sir?
So I will make that commitment with the understanding that you've just put a whole bunch of caveats on that.
The FCC called Peter about that?
The FCC called Peter. He didn't know what it was about. He checked with me. He said, I think it may be about these violations. And I said, my recommendation to him was, go ahead and self-report them. It won't hurt us. We should be upfront with it. So that was my decision. Don't put that one on Peter. So I am not the one to set the mission and vision for KHSU. I think in my world there are three important elements of whatever that final product is. I think it is a hybrid station. It is a station that has strong local programming that is the best of community radio, and it is a station that meets that national public radio sort of audience and serves an increasingly Spanish-speaking audience. It is a true hybrid. And I appreciate the experience that others have had, but that's a rarity in this country, and it's difficult. It's hard to create a hybrid sort of radio station. The second part that I think is an important part of it is we've got to figure out this digital delivery business. We're not exploiting that the way we could, and I appreciate people who live off the grid, but that's not everybody. And there are audiences that we can reach less expensively than using a terrestrial transmitter to broadcast. The third part that I think should be an important part of it is a much greater opportunity for undergraduate students to have on-air radio experience. Yes, at this point, Peter is meeting my expectations. He is not a perfect employee. From my perspective, his job is not in jeopardy. And I conveyed that to the staff, but it is my responsibility.
So everything's going as planned?
No, everything is not going as planned, Danielle. Don't put words in my mouth. The letter that was published in the Lost Coast Outpost, and I have copies up here if anyone would like it, that is President Rossbacher's request to the California State University system for what is called an advisory review. That is the content that I discussed with the staff on the 11th. The President had been in communication with the Chancellor's office since before then. The actual hard copy letter is dated, what does it say, the 19th? So there's nothing nefarious going on in the dates here. For those of you who aren't aware, and there's no reason you would know this, the California State University system operates an internal auditor. They're required by state law to do that. Among the things the internal auditor does is something called auxiliary reviews. It is a top-to-bottom review that a president can request. That's what President Rostocker has requested, and in that letter you see the things that I reviewed with the staff. It's going to be a broad look at the station. The idea is to have some outside group come in and take a look at it and make recommendations. They will make recommendations to the president. She will make those recommendations public. That work is starting. We don't know when. It depends on when they can get here. But I'd really like to have that work done about the same time that we have the vision work done, so that we can bring the two things together. We will have quite a list of things and recommendations and suggestions that we can all chew over. So you now know as much about the auxiliary review as I do.
So will the staff be alerted when these audits, when individuals will be on campus?
Sure, but we're going to invite these experts to come to campus and talk to anybody they want to, and ask any question they want, talk to anybody in the community that they want. So I'm sorry.